Hey there, it's me again, Michelle, and welcome back to the Canadian History, a Chronology channel. Today's episode, number 37, starts us on the road towards Confederation, our fight for responsible government. This is part one of this mini-series. Now, before starting, let's take a quick moment to review what we saw in the last episode. And as a reminder, that episode was the last in the series on the rebellions of 1837 and focused on William Lyon Mackenzie in Upper Canada. We saw that the ruling oligarchy, the family compact, dominated the government in Upper Canada, and that more extremist reformers, led by William Lyon Mackenzie, a newspaperman, took the lead for reform. We saw that Mackenzie collected a list of grievances and that the Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada was Francis Bond Head, who then fixed the election of 1836. Mackenzie then issued a Toronto Declaration based on the American Declaration of Independence and urged a rebellion. In December 1837, as the rebels assembled, they were beaten and their meeting place burned down. Then, fleeing to Navy Island, Mackenzie declared himself President of the Canadian Republic. The government forces attacked, won, and the rebellion was over, and that Mackenzie and Papineau were pardoned and returned to Canada. Okay, now that the summary is out of the way, let's continue with this video and put ourselves on the road to Confederation. Well, the rebellions of 1837 caught the attention of the British government. Civil rights were suspended and the assemblies in both Upper and Lower Canada were dissolved. In 1838, Lord Durham, John George Lambton, was named High Commissioner and Governor General of all British provinces in North America. Durham pardoned most of the imprisoned patriots and rebels, while others were sent into exile in Bermuda instead of the penal colonies of Australia. He met with moderate reformers Dr. William Baldwin and his son Robert, who argued for granting self-government to the colonies. It was the underlying cause behind the rebellions, they argued. Durham also crossed into the United States and helped soothe the strained relationships between the two countries. Lord Durham was recalled to Great Britain in 1838 as his decision to exile prisoners to Bermuda was overruled by the British Parliament. Bermuda was not within Durham's authority, nor was it a penal colony. Durham had only been in Canada for 5 months. Lord Durham resigned his commission in December 1838. In the spring, he submitted his report on the affairs of British North America. The report contained three central recommendations. 1, that Upper and Lower Canada be united under one government to better assimilate the French Canadians. 2, that the governor be required to name the leaders of the elected assembly as his ruling advisors, thereby finally giving them some control. And 3, that the colonies be given authority over their own internal affairs, but the governor still had authority over imperial matters. Durham was simply suggesting that the colonies be given the same parliamentary rights as the citizens of Britain had. In Upper Canada, Durham blamed the outdated colonial system and the ruling clique as on the rebellions there. In Lower Canada, he found that their struggle was more around race rather than principles, due to the division between the French and English along linguistic and cultural lines. His solution was to rig the system instead of using force to assimilate the French in Canada. At first, Durham wanted to unite all colonies into one confederation, but the prosperous maritime colonies saw no reason to join with the rebellious Central Canadians. So a dual union was recommended. The overall objective was the same though, to submerge the French-Canadian population. Lord Durham thought the biggest mistake that British policy had made in the past was to try and preserve a French-Canadian nationality in the middle of an Anglo-American colony and state. Lord Durham never saw his recommendations put into action as he died in July of 1840, but his attitudes toward the French Canadians would lead to a revival. 3 pillars of survival for French Canadians were identified by French historian François-Xavier Garneau at the time as 1. French law, 2. French language, And 3, the Catholic Church. Garneau defined the French Canadians as a people defined by a struggle to survive, first against the Iroquois, then against the British, and now against the English Canadians. The British government rejected Durham's recommendation for responsible colonial government, but it did approve a united legislature, thinking that this would weaken the French Canadian cause. The Act of Union was proclaimed on February 10, 1841, and among the terms were A. Upper and Lower Canada would be united under a single government. B. The Assembly would have an equal number of representatives from both regions. This was to speed up Anglicization of the French, as they would be underrepresented in the government. At the time, Lower Canada had a population of 670,000 compared to Upper Canada's 480,000. C. Both colonies' public debts would be pooled, and again, this was unfair to Lower Canada, whose debt was only $95,000 compared to Upper Canada's $1.2 million debt. D. Upper Canada would now be named Canada West, and Lower Canada would be named Canada East, no longer separate colonies, but separate regions within a single parliament. And E. English would be the only official language of government. All of these and more were designed to assimilate French Canadians into British culture and language. Then in 1841, Kingston, a small garrison town of less than 600 houses, was made the capital city of the new province of Canada. And the British response to responsible government remained a solid no. Members of the council would remain answerable to the governor and not the elected members of the assembly. Well, on that discouraging note, let's end this episode here. Please stay tuned for the next episode, episode 38, The Roads to Confederation, Part 2, where we look into the more moderate reformers and their achievements towards self-government. Now remember, at any time, feel free to leave comments or questions below, and I'll do my best to respond to them all. And please, be a true Canadian and be polite. And if you like this video, give this video a thumbs up. And click And if you like this content, give this video a thumbs up. And click that subscribe button below to see more. And remember to hit the bell if you'd like to be notified of any new content. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.